Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you and welcome to our webinar. We're thrilled to have all of you here today to walk you through our initiative in helping customers demystify the intricacies of the BEAD program and to just to make everybody aware of the resources Winncom is going to be able to provide you to move you in the right direction. My name is Nathan Kim. I'm a business development manager here at Winncom. I've been working closely with some of the team I'll introduce in a second here on developing this program. Joining us here is Alex Cernick, our fiber project manager from Winncom Technologies, and Brooke Coleman from Nokia, who've been instrumental in bringing this session to life here. A huge thank you to Nokia for their collaboration and hard work in preparing for today. And as mentioned before, we'll be diving into some key aspects of the BEAD program and how our combined efforts can support you in your projects. This is going to be encompassed by a combination of expert knowledge, supply chain solutions, and a comprehensive list of services from Winncom to give you a holistic approach to the BEAD process. We're excited to kick off this program and give all of you the opportunities you deserve to be a part of a monumental moment in broadband funding history. So as you come up with questions that you'd like to hear from us or that you would like for us to answer, please feel free to shoot them into the chat box and we'll address all of them at the end. So without further ado, I'll pass the torch over to Alex here to get us started. And thanks again to everybody for joining.
Nate, thank you for the introduction. Navigating the BEAD grant process can be a daunting task. It first begins with identification. This requires consulting the FCC map and assessing if your network meets criteria. This includes developing both offensive and defensive strategies that we'll highlight more in our next webinar series. Now, should your area register at 100 megabits per second below, you're then propelled into an intricate planning phase where the government demands a comprehensive information kicks in. This includes audited financials, detailed business plans, network designs, compliance with product standards, and a substantial financial commitment. Compiling this data is just the first start. It must be carefully curated, presented compellingly. Following your submission, the process includes a challenge phase, a thorough review, and hopefully an approval. Subsequent stages include procurement, construction, operation, and all that is under a strict adherence to a compliance registrations. Here at Winncom, our goal is to streamline the grant application process. Whether you have experience in previous funding vehicles like ARPA or the Capital Projects Fund, or this is your first application process, Winncom offers a tailored solution and programs to streamline the BEAD application. On the forefront of our strategy is a proactive identification of the industry's leading suppliers. Now that's both active and passive EcoCenter products. This includes, from Nokia's perspective, active fiber, the GPON, the PON systems, the ONTs, the passive fiber solutions, which could be bulk fiber solutions, cable assemblies, enclosures, fixed wireless, infrastructure suppliers, and all that are compliant with the Buy America, BABA program, or the unavailability waiver. The second tier focuses on services. Winncom is introducing an array of comprehensive services to support your project from start to finish. Our grant writing service offers meticulous project management throughout your grant application, ensuring every document's collected, correct, with every question answered, alongside post-compliance support. For those needing professional engineering services, Winncom can fulfill BEAD requirements with PE stamp drawings and provide on-site support for wireless and fiber systems. Financial constraints shouldn't hinder the project. Through our partnership with Leaf, Winncom facilitates leasing options that covers both product and services, and that's going to ease that 25% grant match requirement. Moreover, our supply chain services, they're designed to optimize your operation and enhance sourcing logistics, managing inventory efficiently and delivering products kitted, configured, and shipped where and when you need them. Winncom is here to guide you through each step, making your BEAD grant application journey as straightforward and successful as possible. As I mentioned previously, the first stage of our strategy is product compliance. As of now, there appears to be two vehicles available. The Build America, Buy America Act. This program has two sets of criteria. One, a product has to be manufactured in the United States. And two, 55% of its components have to be derived from here as well. On August 22nd of last year, the NTIA and the Department of Commerce proposed an amendment to the BABA initiative. Now, this amendment would serve as a general non-availability waiver for domestic products procurement preference. So suppliers in telecom and infrastructure space would have the ability to self-certify on the upcoming requirements, which we all hope will be announced by the end of this month. Now, Winncom's role in this process is working with our suppliers, assisting them when needed, but ultimately we're documenting and categorizing what products and SKUs are available that fall under those two different sets of criteria. Now, that information will be showcased on our dedicated BEAD portal, which is launching later this week. As you can see from this slide, it's categorized in one of four ways. On the right-hand side, the BEAD program overview, which provides a 40,000-foot overview of our program and services. Our suppliers and products section. Now, these are where we have our compliancies. So if someone is BABA approved, it'll be the vendor's name, their icon, and what products in a categorization fall within that. And as the unavailability waiver is announced, we'll be adding more and more products to that list as well. From a service perspective, as we'll mention throughout this webinar, would be grant writing services, professional engineering services, and then our financial assistance services. And then lastly, the resources is a central repository of information where things like this webinar will go, things like videos and emails, where you have the ability to reference documents at your leisure. So Brooke, I just provided an overview of Winncom's BEAD program. What's happening in BEAD today, and what do we need to prepare for in the next 3 to 6 months, whether we're applying for BEAD or not?
Yeah, that's a big question, Alex. And thank you, Alex and Nathan and the whole Winncom team for having me on today. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. So, with $42 billion in a government program, you can only imagine the amount of process and paperwork that's going to be involved, right? So here you can kind of see what a state has to go through in this BEAD timeline. So all 50 states had to submit their 5-year plan. There's a check mark there because that's done, right? States have done that. Volume 1 had to be published and then submitted to the NTIA. That's done, as well as Volume 2. If you're not familiar with the BEAD Volume 1s and Volume 2s, they're defined in the box below. Essentially, Volume 1, it outlines the state broadband challenge process and how that will work. And then Volume 2 is the grant program rules, for that state. So going back up to my little check marks here, we're done with Volume 1 and 2. They've been submitted, but they are not approved by the NTIA quite yet. So where we're at right now is the NTIA is going through those Volume 1 challenge process documents and approving those states. So you can see on the map, the states that are in red, the Volume 1 has been approved by the NTIA. And so what that means for the states in red is that they can begin their challenge process. Some states have done that. Some states are in the middle of it. Some states are just about ready to start. So those states in red are kind of your early actor states, and they can begin this mapping challenge process. And why is this mapping challenge process important? I think one of your questions there, Alex, was if you're applying to BEAD or not. The challenge process is really important for anyone, whether you're applying to BEAD or not, because the state is responsible for making a specific BEAD map that outlines each broadband serviceable location for that state. It is going to be critical that state has the correct mapping data and information for your state and for your network, so that they can create an accurate map. Now, something to note too is, if you are providing service to a location, it's, obviously critical that the state knows that. But in addition, work doesn't stop in the telecom industry for this BEAD program. You are building networks out right now. And if you have a project that's going to be completed in the next few months, or you're going to be able to provide service to a location in the next few months, your state broadband office needs to know that. Some states have a deadline of June of this year if you're building a project. Other states like Georgia have a date that's further back in the year. So, make sure you're talking to your state broadband office. Make sure they know what projects you're working on, which locations you serve, to make sure your map and your network is defended. Because if you have a location that's marked as unserved or underserved, then you're opening up the door for a competitor to come in into your service territory. Now, this is a lot of money, and someone will go after it. If it's not you, I understand and respect your decision for not going after this funding, but somebody else will. And that's going to sort of have consequences to your business plan, to your competition, and what's going on around you. So just wanted to make those points there for folks that are, kind of on the edge of applying to BEAD or not. So going back to my slide here, a couple of other notes. There are some states, a lot of states, that are requiring a pre-registration window. And what that means is in the next few months, they're going to start gathering data and documentation from providers who are planning to participate. And they're going to pre-qualify you for an application round. So if this is something that you're considering, you will want to make sure that you're pre-registered, or you will not be eligible to apply for the grant application round when that opens up. Now, another thing to consider along your questions of if you're applying to BEAD or not, this may be something, even if you are not going to actually apply to the grant round, you still may want to consider pre-registering and being pre-qualified. The reason being, part of the BEAD process is states can negotiate with providers on if there's any outstanding unserved or underserved locations. They can reach out to a provider that's maybe nearby and negotiate with them a process, because the state broadband office has mission to literally provide internet to every single location in their state. So, if there's only one or two locations and maybe they're near your footprint, they might negotiate and reach out to you for help. And if you're already pre-qualified and pre-registered, it just sort of makes things easier. But then kind of going through the process of what's next and the next, what to expect in 24 is when those volume 2 get approved by the NTIA, that is when a state can open up their BEAD grant window. Now, maybe you've heard that 2024 is going to be the year of BEAD. It definitely will be the year of BEAD. These grant application windows are going to open up this year in most states, maybe early next year in some of the slow mover states. But you can see on the map here that Louisiana, they're the first state to have their volume 2 approved. And it's important to know when your state volume 2 gets approved, because that's when the BEAD grant application window can open. That's also when the 1-year timeline, or time clock, I should say, begins. His state will have 365 days from when that volume 2 gets approved to submit their final proposal to the NTIA. The final proposal will outline exactly how the state is going to provide service to every broadband serviceable location in their state. Once that gets approved by the NTIA is when construction can start building, and those grants can be official and funds will start flowing. So that's a very long-winded answer for sort of where we're at today and where we're going in the next handful of months. If you can hit the next slide, Alex, there are a couple of other, compliance pieces and parts. I know Alex mentioned the BABA waiver, which is really important for you to know and understand, and we're waiting any day now for that waiver to be finalized. But another piece is this letter of credit. The letter of credit from the beginning with this BEAD program was a 25% letter of credit was required. This was pretty challenging for some small rural broadband providers, and so there's a lot of pushback from the industry. And the NTIA released a conditional programmatic waiver, which means anyone applying to the BEAD program, this waiver applies to. You don't have to apply for it individually. You automatically kind of qualify for this waiver. And basically what it does is it allows more flexibility with this letter of credit requirement. You can get a letter of credit from now a qualified credit union, and you can also do a performance bond instead of a letter of credit. So they're hoping to provide a little bit more flexibility to those rural broadband providers to hopefully make it easier for folks to participate in this massive program. So I think that's a very long-winded answer to your question, Alex.
So Brooke, that's great information. What is the initial proposal volume 2 and what do we need to know about it?
Yeah, so the initial proposal volume 2, it's a mouthful, it has outlines how the state is going to run their BEAD program. So if you go to the next slide, I've sort of read through a lot of these documents for each state, and all of them kind of across the board outline general application requirements. So it will specifically say in this volume 2 what someone will need in order to apply to the state BEAD program. So kind of I put this list together for kind of across the board. What does it look like? What do I need to submit in my application? So as an applicant to the BEAD program, you'll have to show your financial capability. That letter of credit, audited financial statements are going to be important. Some states require 1 year, some are 2, some are 3. It just kind of depends on your state how many years of audited financial statements you'll need. But this sort of is just an outline of all the different requirements. You'll have to show documentation of your managerial capability. You'll have to show a lot of documentation around your technical capability. Obviously submitting designs and plans and a detailed budget with project costs. There's a lot of data and information that will be specific to your project. And as you will see there in the center, this is going to be required by all states to have a certified, these plans need to be certified by a professional engineer. And so that just takes, it's just an additional, compliance component piece and part, which I'm really happy to hear that Winncom has the capability to support that. But all of your plans need to be certified by a PE in your state. There's a compliance component where you have to be compliant with all these different state and local laws. And then if you can hit the next one, Alex, there's 4 more kind of categories here. Yeah, thank you. So you'll have to show operational capability that you've been operating and show compliance with the FCC forms and BDC data that you've submitted. You'll have to show documentation on ownership. If you are using any other public funding, you'll have to document that. And they will want to see a lot of documentation around your fair labor practices. Each state has a scoring criteria for your fair labor practices, and you'll have to show, certifications, all of any, documentation around any violations that you may have had, and a lot of workplace information that they'll want to see. So just generally speaking, those are kind of the application requirements, which is one part of the volume 2. But if you go to the next slide, the volume 2 is they're big documents. They range from 60 to 200 pages of documentation. So the application requirements is one piece, but then there's more, and it outlines specifically what's going to happen in that state and how they're going to run the BEAD program. So what we've done at Nokia is we've read through those volume 2s and we've created a funding profile of sorts for each state. And so this is just a sample of one. This is Louisiana, and you can kind of see some of the research and information that we've pulled for Louisiana. Louisiana has been allocated over $1 billion for the BEAD program, but we also kind of wanted to look back at history and see the Capital Projects Fund program and how much funds they had for that. Where did those funds go? What kind of technology preferences did the state have with other funding programs? So you can kind of see that outlined here. And then on the next slide, we'll get into Louisiana and their timeline. And so reading through the BEAD volume 2s, you can get a better understanding for the state timeline and when things are going to happen. how many grant rounds they're going to have, and what these different, phases are. So for Louisiana, they are one of the first mover states. As I said earlier, their volume 2 has already been approved. So they're, kind of ahead of the game in comparison to everybody else. But their challenge process, you can see, closed in November, and they are we're waiting for them. I haven't checked today, but we're waiting for them to release their eligible locations, which are spas or sub-project areas. So we're waiting on that to be released from Louisiana. And then they will open up a pre-qualification window, like I mentioned earlier, where applicants will need to be pre-qualified if they want to participate in the application round. And then we're estimating that the round 1 application window is going to happen, I believe, Q2 of this year, where the state of Louisiana will open up their application window. And then they will make some preliminary announcements on round 1 awards. And then if they need to, they will open up a round 2 application window and then make those preliminary awards. Now I say preliminary awards because they will then, step 8, have to submit a final proposal to the NTIA. And theirs is due on December 15th of this year. So at the end of the year, they'll have to submit a final proposal that says, this is our plan to bring internet to every broadband serviceable location within the state. And then the NTIA has to approve that before, the real work can begin. And then if you go one more slide, Alex, the additional information from the volume 2 that we've sort of pulled out, we've kind of pulled out some key application requirements and different things that, might be valuable to folks looking to apply in Louisiana. What's the technology preference in the state? Well, they are expected, fiber is the priority for this program, and Louisiana specifically calls out XGS-PON as being a preferred technology, and you can get the full 50 points on their scoring criteria from it. So that's definitely going to be a very fiber heavy state. Applicants can propose any number of spas in their application, and these can include non-contiguous spas, and an applicant can submit multiple applications. But the same spa can only be used in 2 separate applications. So a volume 2 kind of goes through all these nitty-gritty details that you'll need to know if you're applying in this state. Like I said, you will have to be pre-qualified and submit a lot of documentation that I mentioned earlier in order to be qualified to submit an application in round 1. They will have 2 rounds. And then we also define how they identify a project area with the spas. And then the disbursement of funds. So in Louisiana, they're going to do a reimbursement basis with 10% of the award being provided once 10% of those eligible locations have been reached. So it's sort of a progress as you're building out to these locations, you can get reimbursed for that percentage of locations and percentage of reimbursement. Like I mentioned, you'll have to have a professional engineer certify your designs. And in Louisiana, they are looking for financial statements that are audited by a public accountant for the last three years of audited financials are preferred. So that's what they're looking for. And then the operator status, they want to see 2 years of operation, but new entrants are allowed to participate. So that was a lot of different pieces and components and parts. This program is very dense. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of things that need to happen here to get an application in and to kind of get everything together. So if it was me, I would feel a little overwhelmed. So Alex, is there any way that Winncom can support someone throughout this whole process?
Absolutely, and I'll get into that. So
Great.
Winncom's, we'll start with grant writing services. So Winncom's grant writing services provide project management through the entire grant application process. As we know, BEAD isn't simple. Applications, as you mentioned, have to provide audited financials, pro formas, analysis of cash flow and balance, 3 years operation costs and projections, network designs, timelines, employees and contractor overviews, among a whole bunch of other stuff. With this service, we'll help you determine what's needed. We'll verify each one of these documents, we'll review your application, and we'll work with you to specify the right narrative. We'll ensure every document's compliant, and we'll help you with any question that may arise. Government funding requires ongoing accountability. And to make this easier, we also offer post-award support. So to ensure taxpayer dollars are spent well, the government requires strict compliance. And that includes progress and closeout reports, documentation of work performed and funds that are spent, reimbursement invoices and quote submissions. So our support program offers that compliance piece, that compliance consulting, that compliance reporting, and we have processes to help with the reimbursement and the closeouts. To streamline your applications, we came up with a 5-tier system. Now, typically a standard minimal time to process an application is somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks. We do have an expedited process, an additional cost that we can do this in 30 days. But just to give you a broad overview of what it would look like from a timeline, the onboarding process is pretty quick. It's between 3 to 5 business days. The key here is how much information you've already collected. As I mentioned, all those documents previously, the performas, the projections, the diagrams, the timelines. If that's something you already have, that next process goes pretty quickly. If not, we can certainly walk you through each piece and part of it. We then review everything, and there's a quality control aspect where all the information is audited. We help devise the narrative. We help you submit the application process, which is pretty quick. And then we've got optional support available for RFI support. And then we've got that, as I mentioned before, that post-award compliance piece. Winncom recently has added professional engineering services in addition to our native technical support capabilities. Now, based on the scope of work and size of these BEAD opportunities, we've extended our staff through strategic partnerships. Through these relationships, we can support both fiber and wireless deployments, and leveraging this pool of resources, we've got over 150 design engineers, we've got 50 plus pole techs, 200 plus OSP and node design drafters, 75 plus project managers, and we've got the ability to put boots on the ground in all 50 states. Now, as it relates to fiber, those services also include OSP engineering for high-level or low-level design work, field data collection, pole attachments, pole loading analysis and tagging, make-ready or lease duct engineering. We can do permit drawing and submissions, traffic control drawings, and FTTX construction management. We are partnered with Leaf, who's a leading provider in tailored financial solutions, and they specialize in empowering BEAD program participants with essential funding support and services. Now, funding can be a potential problem. Now, it's possible to need up to 50% of coverage. That's 25% for the letter of credit and 25% for the grant match. However, the grant match can be reduced with equipment repayment. So Leaf Financial Corp was formed in 2002. They've been operating for over 22 years. They're part of Bank of America. It's very well established. At Winncom, we've leveraged them for over 10 years, and we've used them to help customers that have CapEx constraints. But from this perspective, we can offer 2 different options that will be beneficial for BEAD. One's called a Capital Now program. This is a leasing service for non-tangible products, like the grant writing and the professional engineering. It works exactly like capital. So it's a short-term financing, and it provides anywhere between 25 and 300K in funds, and you can extend that over a 3 to 24 month period. So again, before applications are submitted, grant writing, professional engineering, PE stamp drawings are all necessary. This gives you a way to extend that CapEx expenditure over a longer duration of time. And then their bread and butter is their equipment financing option. So to reduce that 25% grant match obligation, you can prepay equipment. Now this is longer term financing. It's up to 1 to 5 years, and they do easy pre-approvals. But again, this gives two different options to help assist with BEAD funding. Winncom is a value-added distributor. Our role is to assist you through consultation to help you understand what you need. For over 14 years, we provide enhanced services through our consultation, our training, and our product support services. As a distributor, we partner and we try to provide turnkey solutions through integration with the hopes to carry our clients from beginning to end. Winncom's true value, however, is our extensive engineering services. It's coupled with our ability to design, engineer, consult, and quite honestly, deliver world-class products and solutions where you need them. This is what Winncom does every day. What you see in front of you is a list of two different solutions. Our supply chain solution, where we can obviously do forecasting and demand planning, order standardization and logistics. And then our enhanced engineering services, where we can do network designs, we can do trainings, product support, both remote and in the field, link staging, link kitting. So again, all that encompasses that Winncom value. And the reason we partner with industry leaders like Nokia is we believe that next generation PON is required to truly close the digital divide and to provide adequate broadband services to our customer. So Brooke, why is Nokia here? How can Nokia help with BEAD from a product perspective?
Yeah, so at Nokia, we offer something that we like to call Network in a Box. And so Network in a Box is kind of the electronics that you need from end to end to make a network run and function. Any new entrants into the fiber business or, new fiber providers, this is kind of a great starting point to kind of get you everything that you need to get started. And I like this slide because it gives us a good visual of the BABA waiver, the Build America Buy America waiver that we're sort of waiting to be finalized. So you can see, in the back part of the network, the broadband edge and the aggregation, those products are waived. Those do not need to be Buy America compliant. However, once you get into the fiber access standpoint, the ONTs, the OLTs, the optics, the line cards, etc., the fiber access components will need to be Buy America compliant. And then as far as we know right now, the in-home Wi-Fi devices are not BEAD eligible, but again, this is contingent on the final waiver. We're kind of waiting to see how the NTIA outlines the final waiver. But this is sort of a good visual because at Nokia, like I said, we offer this network in a box solution that Winncom is a reseller of and could be a good solution for someone getting in the market. And obviously at Nokia, our goal is to have these Buy America compliant products for our customers. And then, lastly, as hopefully you can tell from this webinar, we have a team of experts that can help you navigate these rules and regulations of the BEAD program. If you need that, we are following it. We're trying to make sure that our sales teams, our customers are educated, and we can sort of be a consultant and educate and guide someone trying to navigate this very complex program. But yeah, this network in a box solution, the Buy America compliant products is why we're here today. So with that, I want to hand it back over to Nathan to kind of close us out and open it up for some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke, and thanks, Alex, for all the insightful information there. To everybody attending here, I hope we were able to answer most of the questions people had going into this and that might have popped up through the presentation, but we'll open the floor here in just a second to answer any remaining questions people might have had. Overall, this webinar is just the tip of the iceberg as far as what we're able to and willing to provide to our customers. While we consider this to be an overview of what we can provide, I would urge people to book a slot with our team to delve a bit deeper into your current standing with this program. We'll be able to provide you with tailored solutions and advice moving forward. So if you are just getting started with this process, we can work together to determine whether your company is going to approach this defensively, and if you're protecting your territory, or if you want to go on the offense, or both. And from there, we can create a checklist of steps that we can take to move you in the right direction and come up with a proper strategy moving forward. If this is something that you have already been familiarizing yourself with, we can also get into the weeds as far as what your exact state requires and how we can maximize your chances for receiving the funding that you need. So if you are interested in setting up a more personalized call, please say so in the chat. We can arrange a meeting. If you're anything like me, we're all running 1,000,000 miles a minute. So I'd encourage you reach out while this is still fresh so we can get the ball rolling. And though our timing is looking good as far as compliance on all the BEAD protocols, the sooner we start your process, the better. Feel free to shoot an email to the Winncom, including copies of these slides and a full recording of the webinar we just did. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank Nokia and Brooke for their hard work and valuable partnership with us.